Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Movie Nights movie review. Today we are talking about A Real Pain. This film is written and directed by Jesse Eisenberg and stars Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin. And it really follows this journey of these two cousins who visit their homeland of Poland for the first time after their grandmother passes away. And hijinks ensue. It's sort of a dramedy with a bit of an emphasis on the comedy. And Nicholas, when I saw the advertisements for this movie, I was obviously intrigued. I didn't get a chance to see Jesse Eisenberg's directorial debut. I heard mixed things, but I was interested that he had made a follow-up so quickly. I was like, oh, good for you. He wants to get that, directing career going. I got to say, I was really pleasantly surprised by the movie. I thought the script, I think, is the best part of it, other than Kieran Culkin's performance, which we're going to get into. The script moves. It cleverly hides its exposition in this guise of a tour guide, which I thought was really interesting to kind of give you not only a history of what they're searching, but just also a reflection of how they're feeling. I thought the direction and the editing could have been cleaned up a little bit, but overall, fantastic movie. Kieran Culkin is the standout. Jesse Eisenberg's great and everything. Every time Kieran Culkin was on screen, you were just gravitated towards his performance. There was so much depth to his character and what he was doing and the journey that the character was going through. And personally, I adored every second of it. And I'm really interested to see what Jesse Eisenberg writes and directs next. But for now, I was really pleasantly surprised by Real Pain. Give me your thoughts, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up going to the early screening, and then again when our group went, and both times I was really just I had the same sort of response to the movie, and that was very positive for me. I think that ultimately the movie does have its flaws, like you said, just some tightening here and there, but ultimately I think those flaws are outbalanced for me by just how much I personally enjoyed the movie and how much the movie sort of resonated with me in that aspect. I also have not seen Jesse Eisenberg's directorial debut, but again, I did hear mixed things, like you had said. But I thought for someone at the beginning of their career from a directing standpoint, I thought that he did a very good job, especially since he was wearing many hats as director, writer, as well as the co-lead of the movie. But it's really overshadowed by Kieran Culkin's performance, which also really works with the characters of Kieran Culkin, supposed to be this sort of charming, over the top, eccentric guy, and Jesse
Yeah.
Eisenberg sort of be meek, quieter of the two cousins. So I think that that also works in parallel in the movie's favor. But really, just the emotional story and arc that all the characters go on, from just the tiny performances, the little things like little monologues here and there about like Kieran Culkin talking about their grandmother passing, and ultimately Jesse Eisenberg's big monologue where he kind of talks about the him and Kieran Culkin's relationship, and the tour group idea I thought worked really well because it allowed for these other groups of characters to come in for them to bounce off of. And you have Jennifer Grey, who I feel like I haven't
Yeah.
seen in something in a while.
Not in a hot minute. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and she did a great job as well. And I think it balances giving all those characters their own sort of arcs as well in the dynamic of the group. And to me, also the movie knew when to break them away from the group and ultimately when to wrap up. The whole sort of journey of this is they're on the tour group, they're leaving a day early, right, to go and visit their grandmother's house. And sort of at the end of the movie, obviously, they get to the grandmother's house. The movie's like, all right, we're done. So I felt
Yeah.
like in that regard it knew sort of the pacing, when to leave, when to have these dramatic moments, when to have these comedy moments. I think it just tonally hit that thread of drama and comedy.
And I really want to piggyback off what you just said there, because Jesse Eisenberg being so early in his directing career, one of the hardest things you can do as a filmmaker is balance tone when you have a tone that shifts often. And it felt fucking seamless. Like when it would go from belly laughs to, tears in your eyes, it didn't feel jarring. It didn't feel out of place. It felt perfectly woven and natural. And huge credit to Jesse Eisenberg for that. And I think a huge example of that is that monologue scene that you brought up with him and the just emotional journey that those characters go on. And then with the immediate scene prior, how all of these different tones were able to be balanced within this story is a testament to also the script, because I think the movie, having it be the backdrop of them visiting their homeland, which obviously was a place of a concentration camp that their grandmother was in, having that kind of be the backdrop of everything with the character traits that they have,
Mhm.
was obviously going to produce a interesting dichotomy of what to do with this story and how these characters are going to interact with each other. I also love that a lot of the storytelling isn't said. I won't spoil it here, but there's a very obvious implication of what's going on with Kieran Culkin's character that's bookended in the movie. And it's never explicitly said, but it doesn't need to be. It's just one of those things that the audience kind of picks up on and is kind of an unfortunate part of just something that this character's going through. And you almost feel upset that the other characters aren't noticing. And but that's also kind of the point of how that character feels and the journey that the character's going on. And I thought that those nuances were done really well. In terms of negatives, I know I'd briefly mentioned it earlier, but I do think that the pacing is a bit off, and the movie's not that long. It's like an hour and 40 something. And I do think that while tonally it weaves perfectly, I think pacing can be hit or miss in regard to some scenes that I think could have been rearranged in the scripting phase. And there are a couple sequences that I think go on a little bit too long, but not for a purpose of waiting on a moment or for a comedy or dramatic beat. It just felt like it was too many frames, and it's like, okay, this could move forward. And it was to the point where it was noticeable a few times, but honestly, if that's the biggest complaint I have about your movie's pretty damn good. And overall, I was thoroughly satisfied with everything.
Yeah, I mean, it really was just sort of this. You're watching this sort of meditation therapy session. It felt like of Jesse Eisenberg himself on just sort of what history, your family's lineage and history, and you're sort of placing that as, a third generation immigrant,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of comparing that with, the idea of pain and suffering and what that sort of means now. And there was a great line, it's in the trailer as well, when he was like, well, if everyone just goes around crying all the time, nothing would get done. There's a time and a place, and Kieran Culkin says this is a Holocaust tour. If this isn't the time and place, I don't know what is.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think those themes that it hits on and those notes just, I think, work wonderfully throughout the film.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree 100%. And, guys, if you've seen A Real Pain, what did you think about it? We'd love to see your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next review.